Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty incredible, a complete toolkit for buying a profitable business, even if you have absolutely zero cash in your bank account to start. And no, it's not some kind of magic trick, it's all about using the right strategies. So let's just kick things off by tackling a huge myth. You see a business for sale, it's got $1 million price tag, and you immediately think, well, that's not for me. But that's only because you're assuming you have to write that check yourself. Well, here's the secret, the real game changer. The business can literally buy itself. It's all about a massive shift in how you think about the deal. Once you make that mental leap, a whole world of creative deal-making opens up, none of which require you to use your own personal capital. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with that all-important mindset. Then we'll get into the practical toolkits, how to get funding from the seller, from the business itself, and from third parties. And finally, we'll put it all together and show you how to build a deal stack for a zero-down acquisition.
All right, let's start with that foundational idea. Because honestly, this is the part that changes everything. It's not just about tactics, it's about completely changing the lens through which you see a potential acquisition.
This quote right here, it just nails it. You have to stop thinking of yourself as someone who sells, widgets or services. Instead, you're an investor, and the business itself is the product you're building. Your job is to increase the value of that asset. You've probably heard this phrase before, right? Working on the business, not just in it. That's exactly what this is about. When you see the company as the asset, your whole perspective changes. You stop worrying about the day-to-day grind and start thinking bigger about mergers, acquisitions, and building long-term value.
So, once you've got that asset-focused mindset locked in, you can pick your strategy. There are really 5 main ways you can approach buying a business. Let's take a look. Each one of these is a totally different playbook. Buy and build is for when you want to become a dominant force in an industry. A fix and flip, well, that's a high-risk, high-reward game for people who love a good turnaround story. And carve-outs are like corporate treasure hunts, finding those hidden gems inside bigger companies.
Okay, now we're getting into the really juicy stuff, the mechanics. The first, and honestly the most critical source of funding, often comes from a really surprising person, the seller. Let's explore how the person selling you the business can actually become your biggest ally in buying it.
These are the main tools in this specific toolkit. The most popular one, by far, is owner carry, where the seller basically becomes your bank. But you can also get creative with things like earnouts. That's where part of their final payment is tied to how well the business does in the future. It gets them invested in your success.
Let me break that down. With an owner carry, you're not the one paying the seller back, the business is. This is a total game changer. You take control of the company and its future profits pay off the loan to the person who sold it to you. That's the first major step to making the business by itself. All right, so besides the seller, the very next place you should look for funding is right inside the company itself. Most businesses are sitting on a gold mine of assets that can be used to finance the purchase. You just gotta know how to unlock that value. This is all about getting creative with a company's balance sheet. For instance, with asset-based lending, you can get a loan using the company's inventory as collateral. Or with factoring, you can sell the company's unpaid invoices to a third party for instant cash. You're basically turning dormant assets into cold, hard cash to fuel the deal.
The easiest way to think about this is like getting a mortgage. When you buy a house, the house itself is the collateral for the loan, right? It's the exact same idea here. A lender gives you the money to buy the business, and the loan is secured by the very assets you're in the process of buying. It's a beautiful thing.
So what happens if you've tapped the seller and you've leveraged the business's assets, but you still have a gap to fill? Well, that's when you turn to the outside world. And again, you can do it without touching your own bank account. There is an entire ecosystem of people and institutions ready to fund good deals. You've got your traditional options like SBA loans, which are fantastic. But you can also bring in a co-investor who puts up the cash in exchange for a slice of the company. You could even get a key supplier to co-sign a loan. Why? Because your success is their success. Okay, this is where it all comes together. This is the grand finale. See, the real secret isn't just using one of these strategies in isolation. The magic happens when you layer them or stack them one on top of the other to cover the entire purchase price. We call this the deal stack.
Let's make this real with a simple $1 million deal. First, you go to the seller and negotiate an owner carry for half the price. Boom, that's $500,000 covered. Next, you look at the company's assets and get an asset-based loan for another $300,000. Now you've only got a $200,000 gap. So you find an investor who's excited about the deal and they put up the cash for a piece of the action. So what happens when you stack all of that together? What's your out-of-pocket cost? A big, beautiful zero. The entire deal is funded. You've just taken control of $1 million company without spending a single penny of your own money.
And what we've walked through today is really just scratching the surface. There are hundreds of these creative strategies. The big takeaway here is that for any funding gap you have in a deal, there's almost certainly a creative way to fill it. It's just a puzzle waiting for you to solve.
So I want to leave you with this question. It's not about if you can buy a business with no money down anymore. Now that you have the toolkit, the only real question is, which one are you going to go get?